Hi everyone, welcome to episode 151 of A Stitch in Time. Today is Monday. It is August 17th, 2020. I'm Carol, also known as Knitsnpurls on Ravelry, and I am coming to you from where I live in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, not too far east of Vancouver. If this is your first time watching, a very special hello and welcome to you. Thank you for checking out the podcast. I hope you like what you see and that you'll be back for more. And if you're a returning viewer and you are back for more, welcome back. Hello again. Thank you for stopping by yet again to spend part of your day with me. Also, a huge thank you to everyone who reached out in one way or the other since my last episode. I always enjoy hearing from you. You leave the kindest comments. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your life to drop me a line and say hello. I really appreciate the give and take part of doing this podcast. You may hear the sound of a fan in the background, and I hope it is not too loud and I hope it's not too annoying, but it is necessary. It is hot and muggy here today. It's the kind of day where right from the get-go you just feel hot and sticky. I am glowing today, to put it politely. So I'm also hoping to finish recording by the time the sun comes through directly through the window to my left here, because once it does, it's going to be even more unbearable. So yeah, it's Monday. I don't usually record Mondays, and I kind of realized why. It is laundry day. It's also the first day of the week, so I'm catching up on things that didn't get done over the weekend, and I'm trying to prepare for the week ahead. But I was going to record on Friday, but I was doing some sewing, and I was hoping to be able to finish it up in time to record in the afternoon, and then it became pretty apparent that wasn't going to happen. And I am running. I don't have many opportunities this week to record. I'll tell you why in a few minutes. So here we are, squeezing this in between laundry loads. You may hear a buzzer go off in the background there from the dryer, but yeah, let's get on with it, shall we? One thing about delaying recording a little bit is that I do have a little bit more to talk about than I would have otherwise. So there's a plus there. First thing is I have a finished project. It is a new pair of socks. These are what I'm calling the Summer Fairy socks. The yarn is from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. It's her bedazzled base, which is merino, nylon, and stellina, so they're sparkly, because if they're fairy socks, they should be sparkly, right? And this is the Summer Fairy colorway. So these knit up incredibly quickly. I had cast them on when we left for our holiday a couple of weeks ago, and so I had lots of sock knitting time in the car. Ended up with a little bit more last weekend that I wasn't expecting. And then just, one thing I do is just, my hands are hardly ever idle. So if I have a few minutes to sit down, I'm usually pick up some knitting to do. And so, yeah, it didn't take too long till these got finished. So I'll bring up a little bit closer to show you. It is a 64 stitch top down sock, 2x2 ribbing. I ended up doing afterthought heels so that I could keep the striping intact on the front, and a rounded toe, which is my usual. Knit on 2mm needles, and I worked on these two at a time on separate needles concurrently. So when I do that, I'll usually knit the ribbing on one, knit the ribbing on the other, work to a certain part on, a certain stripe on one, work the same amount on the other. And then, so what happens is by that point, when you reach the toes, you just do a toe, the pair is done. I really like knitting my socks that way, especially when I'm using stripes or yarn of that nature where I really want to make sure they match. And these actually ended up matching quite well. So love this yarn. They almost knit up too fast. I just think the colors in here are so fun, and I was really looking forward to casting them on, and they're almost done too soon. But I look forward to wearing them when it is less warm outside, shall we say. So of course I needed another pair of stockinette socks, and I was sorely tempted to cast on another really fun colorway, but my conscience got the better of me, and instead I cast on another pair of Cameron's Father's Day socks. For Father's Day I bought him 3 skeins of Cascade Heritage Wave in various colorways. I've knit him 1 pair, and in my mind I want to have the 3 done before the end of the year. So this that I want doing now, I've held up 2 skeins and I said, which ones do you want next? And of course he picked the most boring one, which is this. This is color 511, the blues colorway. There's not a lot of variation between these. The wave yarns are kind of long. I don't even think the picture can really show you. No, it's just such a poor copy there. They're long color changes. It's like they're barber pulled 2 colors that are spun together, and they just gradually change colors into color blocks. But there is not much variation in this one at all. You can tell that from the ball, and you can definitely tell it from the sock. Maybe it's a little bit darker here than up here, but it sure is not an obvious change. I only cast these on, was it yesterday or Saturday? I think it might have been Saturday. I just did a few rounds of ribbing. I knew I was going to need something to work on while I was visiting someone yesterday, and then I've continued to work on these through happy hour, and last night I was watching something on the iPad and just kept knitting. Didn't really have to look. That's the perfect kind of thing to do on a boring sock like this. Just kind of knit without having to pay a whole lot of attention. So yeah, so I've got those on the go. Speaking of conscience, I cast on a new project earlier this week, which I will share with you in a minute. But my conscience was getting the better of me, and I was thinking I really should finish up the 3 socks that I have on the go from Helen Stewart's Handmade Sock Society 3 collection. Like a fool, I cast on 3 pairs at once. I think it was back in May. And I did finish the first sock of each pair. And since then I did do the cuffs of all 3 second socks. I think that's where I was last week. And since then I have worked on all 3 of them, have done at least some patterning. But I'm only going to show you one because it's the only one that has significant progress. That is the luminary socks. So this is my first one. This is knit from, where'd my label go? It's from Skein Yarns in the top draw sock base, and that's the quill colorway. Quill. And I love these socks. It is a beautiful shade of navy, kind of a marine blue. Has 1x1 twisted rib cuff. It has this really pretty sort of star stitch pattern running down the front with just a little bit of lace work on either side. So I have got quite a ways down the second sock now. I have completed the heel flap and heel turn, and I've just picked up for the gusset stitches and knit a couple of rounds. So I am more than halfway through the second sock on this one. So I'm really thrilled about that. I am going to try and concentrate over the next few weeks on finishing these socks up and yeah, just getting them off my conscience. They've been on the go too long. It seemed like such a good idea at the time to cast them all on, but I should have known better. Another project that I have picked up again is the lounging top by Hohi Locatelli. Looks like this. It is a very simple, sort of seasonal, I guess, spring, summer, fall top, and sleeveless. Work it from the top down in the round. Once you construct, you start at the shoulders, work your way down on the back to the bottom of the armhole, pick up along the shoulder seams on the front, knit down to the armhole, join it in the round, and then you go from there. I am knitting mine from, I just saw the label here. It is from Fleece Artist, Merino Slim, and it is the Coral colorway, which is a bright orange, corally orange color. It is showing up very bright on camera. It is quite a bright color, so I think it's pretty true to color. It's sleeveless, just has this little sort of cap sleeve that is bound in this garter stitch. It's not laying flat right now because it's not blocked. I think that'll block out. I went ahead, even though adding the neckband is the last step in the pattern, I went ahead and did it right away so that when I get to the bottom of the sweater and bind off, I will be done. So I am just a little bit, probably an inch or two above the waist now. And the only thing I'm doing differently is I'm adding a bit of waist shaping. I don't know if you can see it there. Just to give the sweater a little bit more shape. Otherwise, it's supposed to be knit just straight down. And then it has a, I don't know if you would call it an asymmetrical hem. The hem is a bit higher in the front than it is in the back. You do a bit of waist shaping, or sorry, you do a bit of short row shaping to give it a curve at the back. So I'll see how that works out. Those kind of tops, depending on where they hit me, are not always the most flattering. Sometimes they just emphasize my stomach too much. So we'll see how this works. If I don't like the way it looks, I will take it back and then just finish it straight across. But I want to give it a go, knit it as it's you know, been written. Anyway, enjoying this too. It's basically just at the knit stage because it's just stockinette with the odd increase or decrease thrown in for waist shaping now, so I can just work away on this also just easily when you're, you know, talking to someone or whatever. I am alternating two skeins because they were a little bit different, and I'm doing that with the helical method, in which you knit around to 3 stitches before your end of round. You drop that strand, slip the next 3 stitches, and then continue working with the second skein of yarn. I messed up recently, and I came to those last 3 stitches. I dropped my yarn, I slipped the stitches, and then I picked up the original yarn and kept knitting. So I ended up with a strand of yarn at the back where I had picked up the wrong one. So I've just ripped back a couple rows, redone it, and I'm back in business. So quite enjoying working on that also. But the project that has really captured my heart and time and attention this week is a new cast on. So last week I showed you some yarns that I had bought on holiday and told you that one of the projects I was considering was a colorwork sweater. And then soon after recording, it was that day or the next, I think, the perfect pattern popped into my mind, and I checked the yarn requirements and I had exactly what I needed. And so I thought, why wait? Just go for it. So I am taking part in Fiber Nymph Dye Works 20 and 20 challenge. At least sort of. I have set myself goals and I'm keeping track of my accomplishments. I'm just not really taking part in the group. Unfortunately, because it seems like a really great group of knitters. In any case, one time I was posting, my eye was caught by a project by someone named Seductive Berry. That's her Ravelry name. And it was this sweater called Swallowtail. So this is by Jamie Hoffman of Knitsnpurls Designs. That's how you spell it. And I just thought that was the coolest sweater. Here's another picture. See it in its entirety. And so it calls for, like, you need 3 single skeins of yarn for the colorwork part, and then 2 skeins of a main color. And that's exactly what I had. And so here it is. So it's that much done. Oh, I'll tell you about the yarn in a second. It just dawned on me I hadn't done that yet. I'll spread this out a little bit. There's the very front. So you can see the antennae of the butterfly, and there's the beginning of the wings. And then the rest of the yoke has this design. Isn't it beautiful? So originally okay, let's show you the yarn and then we'll go from there. So the yarn is Fiddly Dye Works. This is the merino sock base, which is just a merino nylon 75-25 base, fingering weight yarn. So I had bought these 3 colorways. This is Julian. This is Olivia, and this is Sophia or Sophie? Sophie, I think. Yeah, Sophie. So I had bought those 3 of them together. And then I also had a skein of Adira, which, even though the camera blows out this yarn, it's deeper color than this, it goes with this so well. So originally when I cast it on, I was looking at the picture, and so I cast on first with the Adira, and I started doing the color work with this dark brown, and then I was going to do this part with the light color with the dark brown contrast. But as I knit the whole section of the of these 2 together, there just wasn't enough contrast. And then it dawned on me that I could knit them in this order and then use this for the contrast. So then I was curious if anyone else had done light on dark instead of dark on light as far as the color work went. So I went looking on Ravelry, and actually what I found is Seductive Berry's project, which is the one that I was inspired by, is actually knit that way with the contrast in a lighter yarn. Well, then that really sold me. And then of course this is the result. And I think it just shows there's such a pop in the colors. It just shows it off so well. And then this color will be the main color once you finish the color work. So that'll blend in really well. And also, I think this color, you do a little bit of color work with these 2 colors together. And again, there'll be enough contrast. So I am thrilled to death with this new project. I love the colors. I love how the speckled skein gives these little pops of color in the color work. I don't know if you can see on camera or not, but anyway, I am just, yeah, thrilled. But I've made myself put it away for a bit and concentrate on the socks. So I'm going to definitely pick it up again soon. But at least I got, you know, the initial taste of it and just am enjoying it so much. Pretty happy with my color work. I think the tension's looking good. I did not swatch, so we'll see how that works out. No guarantees, but I didn't exactly just cast on blind. I looked at numbers I had used for other similar projects and things like that. So I cast on with sort of an educated guess as for needle size and size, pattern size. So we'll see. You'll know soon enough if it doesn't work out. Okay, I've got to clean up this stuff a little bit and grab my sewing, which is over there. So I will be right back. All right, so last week I showed you some placemats that I was making out of this collection from Riley Blake Designs called Tranquility. There's the fabric palette there. And I was making two different styles of placemats. So the first one, I had purchased a jelly roll, which is 2.5 inch strips. I had purchased a charm pack, which is a 5 by 5 inch square, and then some yardage for backing and binding. So I think when I showed these to you last week, I had completed all of the basic striped placemats, and I just made these by putting down the lining fabric, put a piece of batting on top of it, and then I sewed a strip of piece of jelly roll, stripped down, pressed it open, sewed the next one, pressed it open, and so my stitching lines became my quilting lines on the back. And then all they needed were a binding. So I went ahead and bound those with this fabric here. And it's so funny because I was really conscious of two things. One is I did 3 placemats that had a lighter stripe on the outside edges and 3 that had a darker stripe. And then I made a real point of not duplicating any of the fabric patterns in the placemat and trying to mix up the colors too. And then it was when I was ironing this one or binding it, and I noticed not only did I duplicate the same fabric pattern, but I put exactly the same color in it. Oh well, it's not the end of the world, but I was a little bit miffed when I saw that. But by then it was just too late. I was not looking back. Anyway, so I've got that one. I think I showed these two last week, but I'll show them to you finished because they really do just have such a nice look when they're all edged. There's the darker ones. Just love these fabrics. The whole time I just did not get tired at all of working with these fabrics. And again, that's the backing. So then I was doing a different style of placemat in which I took one of the charms and put it in the center, made it into a diamond, and then I used strips from the jelly roll to work out from there. So got a style like this. Now, I can't remember the exact dimensions. These ones are 14 by 18, and I rounded the corners so that it was easier to put the bias binding on. And I have to say, this is one of the best jobs I have ever done binding anything. Usually I have a lot of doing and redoing, and I end up with what do you call them, like little folds, catches the fold. That's the right word, but I think you know what I mean, when you just catch a fabric that's overlapping. And in this case, I had read, I think it was in the Quilt As You Go book by Jira Brandvig. I'm pretty sure it's in here that she suggests that if you are going to be machine stitching your binding, that you attach your binding to the wrong side of your fabric, whoops, then flip it to the front and top stitch so that you will for sure catch the binding. Because what often happens if you try and do it the other way around, you miss the other side and then it's not caught. So at least this way it's caught for sure. But I was very meticulous when I was pinning it, and so not only did I catch the edges here, but I also got a decent look on the other side. So I was really pleased with all the binding. So anyway, these are 14 by 18. So I can't remember exactly what I ended up with for sizing on these ones originally. And it had to do with, I know it wasn't 14 by 18 because this strip wasn't big enough. There were going to be some too much, like some batting showing. So I knew I had to take it down a little bit. And I think I had it down to 13 inches. Yes. Anyway, I had a whole system for cutting these out, squaring them up, as it were, I don't know. Long story short, I had done 3 of the placemats as of last week, except for the binding. And then I left it for a few days, and then when I went back to it, and I went to trim my next placemat, I trimmed it wrong. And I ended up trimming along this line instead of an inch above this line. Or something like that. And I just felt sick about it because I'd already done 3 in the bigger size. And I thought, I don't want to have one that just looks different. So then my solution was, well, make them all the same size. So I ended up trimming the other ones and making them 12 by 18, which is not ideal, but actually looking up online sort of standard sizes of placemats, there really aren't any, and yet one site did suggest 12 by 18 as being a standard size. So I thought, okay, it's not like an outrageous size. So I decided, okay, I'm going to make them all 12 by 18 then. So I proceeded to do the next ones, and then I screwed up again, and I cut another one wrong. And in this case, I cut it, instead of 18, I cut it, I think 16, or I cut it 17. That's what it was. And it sounds like a stupid mistake, and it is a stupid mistake. I was saying to somebody, with Quilt As You Go, I enjoy it because even though I'm very fastidious about certain things like my knitting, with Quilt As You Go, I don't feel like I have to be as much of a perfectionist with it. So I don't mind the odd thing that's crooked or doesn't quite match up. But when I make a bonehead mistake, like cutting it wrong, then that's a different story. So anyway, ended up with this one that was 17 inches instead of 18. And the reason is that I would have my piece of fabric and I would lay it out on my small cutting mat, and I would line up this these corners with the 10-inch mark, and I lined up these ones with the 8-inch mark so that they'd all be centered, and then I would cut at the 1-inch mark on one side and the 19-inch mark on the other. But what I did is I ended up cutting the 18-inch mark. Oh, I need 18 inches? And as soon as it's done, it's too late. You can't reattach it. So then I ended up making this one, because I had the room, I made this one bigger. This is what the rest of them should have looked like, only 1 inch wider. So I thought, okay, well, it's different anyway. I can't do it. I'll just make this one bigger then, as long as it's going to be different. Now I can use it like a center pad, you know, in the middle of the table like a runner, or I can use it to hold hot pots or something. Anyway, it wasn't going to be wasted. But then it was bothering me because then I only had 5 placemats that looked like this. So like there's, I'll show you those. There's that. And then what I did with these ones is I had the batting. I put down the square. I attached the pieces of, sort of did quilt as you go onto the batting with all the strips. And then I put the backing fabric on, and then I stitched around, just kind of stitched in the ditch around each square, around the square and around each strip. And so that's how the quilting ended up on the back. I don't know if you can see that or not. I should show you. And then did the binding. So anyway, it bothered me. I was only going to have 5 of these. So there's 1, 2, and in some cases I didn't have enough fabric to do the same, so I did opposite corners in the same, but did each corner in the same kind of tone. So I used this in this corner and this corner, and then this one and this one, offsetting corners. So overall the color is the same, the pattern's just a bit different. I think there was only 2 that did that, maybe 3, just a couple I think. Anyway, yeah, so I had the 5. I was really choked that I didn't have 6. And then I was able to cobble together from some leftover strips and leftover fabric from the backing and binding, and I was able to make a 6th one. So I was pleased about that. I really didn't think I was going to be able to. So that's one of the ones that ends up with one of the corners that are different. And I didn't have any more of this backing fabric, and so I used this one instead. Oh, there, that gives you a really good idea of the quilting on the back. But who turns their placemat over as a rule anyway? And again, they're kind of the same color family. So I did 3 mats with the dark binding, and then 3 with the light binding, because that's what I had. So yeah, you know, like I say, it's just a boneheaded mistake, not once but twice on my part, and I should know better. You know, there's that old adage of measure twice, cut once. Well, I managed to do the opposite, not once but twice. But in the end, I've ended up with 6 more usable placemats plus an extra mat I can use for something. And then in the meantime, I wanted to do a table runner out of the, I had quite a few quite a few charms left from the charm pack, because I'd only used, I guess, 7 from the mats. And so I went looking online and found a video tutorial from the Missouri Star Quilt Company for this zigzag charm pack table runner. And I actually put my binding of the placemats on hold in order to sew this, because I was so enthused about it. So there it is. This was constructed by sewing together strips of the charms. You start with 2, you go to 4, then you go to 5, and you keep doing 5 as long as you want your runner to be, and then you end with 4, and 2. So this kind of sits in the middle section of our kitchen / dining room table. And I patterned it. I did look at, again, I tried to mix up the patterns and the colors, so they're quite well distributed. I kind of have went from dark to medium to dark to medium to dark, and on the outside I had white, light blue, white, light blue, and then I had grays going down the middle. And this is so you basically sew all your strips together. So this is more like real quilting. I did a pretty good job matching my centers. There were, or my corners. There's a couple that aren't perfect, but I thought I actually did pretty well. This is why I don't want to do real quilting, because I just don't enjoy having to be that exact. But I thought I did a pretty good job. So anyway, you sew all your things together, then you lay down your quilt batting, you lay down your backing. My backing looks like this. And then, so you lay down your backing with the right side showing, and then you put this down, right sides together, stitch around all the edges, clip your corners, and trim your corners and clip this kind of corner. And then you turn it all outside or inside out, and just stitch around the outside. They did a quarter inch top stitch. I did more like an 1/8 of an inch, and then you stitch in the ditch around all of the squares. And it was really cool because they show you that if you start in a certain place, you can actually go down and zigzag, and you can do a whole bunch of them with not having to cut your thread. It's not like you have to go around each one individually. It was quite a neat trick. So anyway, yeah, there's the table runner. So now that I've shown them all off, I can actually use them. So I'm excited about that, putting them on the actual table and using. So that is it for all the crafting, I guess. Actually got quite a bit done this past week and a half. Mostly because there hasn't been a whole lot of other things going on. Last Saturday ended up taking a drive unexpectedly. Long story short, there was a vehicle that belongs to one of the stores my husband oversees that had been in at getting repairs done at like head office. And so that's about an hour's drive away from us. The store where it belongs is about a half an hour's drive in the other direction. So in order to get it, we needed 2 people to drive in, get the truck, drive it individually back to the store it belonged in, and then come back together in one vehicle. So that's what we did. And the route actually took us on a stretch of highway that I haven't driven for a number of years. It used to be very familiar to me because as a kid, where I grew up, we would take that highway to go up to the cabin all the time. It's on the opposite side of the river from where I live now. And so just where it is, we really have no reason to drive that stretch of highway. And so it was really neat to drive it again, and just sort of a trip down memory lane, because a lot of it has not really changed in decades. Other parts have definitely changed and have buildings that didn't used to be there and such, but a lot of the route is very much as it was when I was a kid and a teenager driving that direction. And then we ended up stopping for lunch on the way home at a local restaurant, and it has a big patio area, lots of distant seating, and felt perfectly safe. Had a really nice lunch, so it turned into a really nice Saturday. So I let Cameron drive my car to go get the truck and then back home again so I could knit. But it actually was really nice getting a chance to drive my car in the other for the other legs of it, because I bought my new car in February, and then COVID hit, and I've hardly driven it, and I don't even think I've driven it on the highway since I brought it home from the dealership. Well, now that I think of it, I've just done little local trips around town, and most of our errands we end up doing together on the weekends and driving Cameron's car. So it actually felt really good to take it on the highway and break it in a little more. And then Sunday we went and got our hair cut and did some grocery shopping. So I was really happy to do that. I hadn't got a lot cut off last time because it had grown quite long during, it had been 6 months between haircuts by the time I got my haircut last time. And so I didn't take a ton off last time because I kind of gotten used to it longer. But this time I decided to go shorter again. So it actually feels good, especially in the heat, to have a little bit shorter. And then that afternoon we went over to our daughter's place, visited with the grandkids and our son-in-law and hers, so that was nice too. And then yes, Sunday, or this week, the weekday, not a whole lot going on. I did try out pizza on the barbecue for the first time though myself. I think a few weeks ago I talked about how our son-in-law had made it when we went over for dinner for our daughter's birthday. And so he had given me his crust recipe, so I decided to give that a try, and cooked it on the barbecue, and it turned out great. And my mom had given me a basil plant, so I just did, trying to think, I just did basil and tomatoes and cheese, and it was so good. So that's definitely going to be our go-to method for cooking pizza in the future, except if it's like, the middle of winter and way too cold, then I'll do it in the oven. But other than that, from now on, I think we're going to do it in the barbecue. It was so good. And I'm going to do that pizza dough recipe again, too. I really liked it. I think it came off the internet because he printed it out for me. So if I can, I will link it in the show notes for you, in case you're interested. Let's see. So this past weekend, Saturday morning, we took apart our shed. So when we put it up, we just had a gravel pad made for it and thought that would be sufficient. But since then it has settled, and so for one thing, the doors, the shed is now sitting below the outline of, like, the wooden outline of the wooden frame of the pad, and it's hard to get the doors open and shut. Plus this winter I noticed one day we'd had tons of rain and the pad had filled up with water. I had water like pouring out of the bottom of the shed, and then it also, one wall came a little bit displaced. So we should have gotten a cement pad made in the first place. We thought we'd be okay with gravel. It's our mistake. We're paying the price for it now. So we disassembled the shed, and we're going to get this concrete pad done for it, and then we'll reassemble. So we realized partway through that we would be able to take off the gable and roof assembly as it was intact. If only I was taller. So we called up our older son, who just lives a few minutes drive away, and he came over, helped Cameron lift that off, and then helped us disassemble the rest of it. So I think it only took us, I don't even know if it took us 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half to do it. I'm sure it'll take a lot longer than that going back together again, but we'll get our concrete pad built and then we'll reassemble it. I have possibly tomorrow, pardon me, a guy coming to do an estimate on it. So if not, it should be next week. So pretty soon, before the bad weather starts, we should be able to get it done anyway. Then yesterday, Sunday, I had the nicest visit with my 3 local sisters. So my oldest sister had been trying to arrange a time that she could come over. She said she had something for me, and I wasn't sure what it was. And when we finally connected, she mentioned that she had mailed my Toronto sister's thing to her, so I knew it was something she had gotten for all of us. Still wasn't sure what. So anyway, it worked out that we were all able to get together at my oldest sister's house yesterday early afternoon. So we sat out in her front yard, which was in the shade. Good thing. She originally had set up in the backyard. She was going to put an umbrella up. It would have just been sweltering, but there was plenty of room in the front yard. She lives in a townhouse, so she just has a literally little front and backyard. But plenty of room for us to spread out our chairs, and breeze was blowing. It was actually quite comfortable. In any case, this is what she had for all of us. It was a new cup. So it says, side by side or miles apart, sisters will always be connected by heart. But the really cool part is the back, because there we are. So it has our names on it. She has, it says big sis, middle sis, middle sis, middle sis, little sis. This is me. I'm one of the middle sisses. I am second youngest. She got her hair really cool, like looks, especially this sister, that looks like her from the back for sure. My oldest sister has a wine glass. My younger sister is doing a peace sign. Anyway, and it has her names. I don't know if I said that already. Anyway, really, really cool gift. So, for no occasion whatsoever, those are the best kind, those unexpected just because gifts. I think she said she had seen it on Facebook, and they only had up to 4 sisters. And she said that she wrote to them and said, if you can make it 5, I'll buy 5 cups. And she said she never heard back from them, but within a few weeks, there were 5 available. So whether it was her doing or not, I have no idea. But yeah, we had a really nice visit because it's been a while since we've all been all together. I don't think we have physically since before COVID-19. I guess not. I know we have met on Zoom and we have met individually, but yeah, that's the first time we were all together in months. So anyway, it was really great. I think that's all, or at least most of the highlights from this past week or week and a half. Coming up this week, I'm going to make a quick solo trip up to the cabins, leaving Wednesday morning and returning Friday in time for Appy Night. One of my cousin's daughters is going to be up at the cabin with her family for a few days. They live up in northern BC, and I think it's been about 8 years since I've seen them. So when I found out they were coming, I really wanted to visit. So Cameron is in the middle of inventory at the moment, and this is his busiest week for that. And he'll be working late pretty well every night anyway, so we're not going to see a whole lot of each other. It seemed like good timing. So I didn't feel too bad leaving him. And so I'll pick up my mom in town and take her out to see them too. We are still not in each other's bubbles, so unfortunately she won't stay out at the cabin with me. We'll wear masks in the car. It's about a 10 or 15 minute drive from her house to the cabin, so we'll just make sure there's lots of ventilation and then just practice social distancing while we're together. It's better than nothing. And it'll be nice to have some time with her. Well, Thursday I'll either bring her back out to the cabin or just go visit her in town. In any case, we'll get to have a good visit while I'm there. So I'm looking forward to that too. Other than that, not much to talk about. I hate to end on a downer. It's our cases of COVID-19 continue to climb here in British Columbia, and it frustrates me because we had done such a good job initially to flatten our curve, and it's at the hands of sadly mostly young people partying that seem to be driving our numbers up. And while they may be more apt to recover, they're still, of course, going to be spreading it through the community and putting other people at risk. And there's no good time for that, but especially now with kids heading back to school, and then, there's already this danger of a second wave heading into the fall. Well, it looks like it's come early. So that's frustrating, and all you can do is the best you can do, but it's frustrating and it's worrisome knowing that the number of cases out there is larger than it was a couple of months ago. So we have to be particularly vigilant. But all we'll do is continue to do what we can do to protect ourselves and others, and hope that others get a brain and do. Okay, I can't go out on a low note like that. That would not be right. I had not really thought about my something good for this week, but it is sisters. My sisters in particular. My sisters truly are my best friends, and I just feel so grateful that they are part of my life, and I just can't imagine life without them. Sometimes I think about losing one, and it will be like losing a part of myself. I don't want to get all choked up now thinking about that. I hope you are as fortunate to have siblings in your life that you are close to, and if not siblings, friends who are like family. And on that happier note, I will say goodbye. I am not sure when I'm going to record next. Now my schedule's all out of whack. It's probably next week, probably towards the end of next week. But don't panic if you don't see me. I'm sure I'll be fine. I wish you all well. I thank you all so much for watching. Take care until next time, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.